You've just received a letter in the mail. Your insurance is getting canceled. What do you do? That is what we're going to talk about today on Just My Opinion. This is Jessica Duncan's Just My Opinion, and I'm Jessica. There's no handbook to owning a home. That's why I go beyond the transaction to share my tips and insights for adulting made simple. So this is a very scary situation that we are talking about today. You just received a letter in the mail that says your insurance is being canceled normally within 60 days. That's about all the time they normally give you. And we're going to talk about what you can do and how you can manage your way through this. So the first thing we got to talk about is why this happens. Why could they be canceling your insurance? There's a couple different reasons, and this is very specific to Florida. I do need to add that. It's very specific information about Florida. We do have different insurance situations than the rest of the country. So if you're listening to us from other parts of the country, know this is specific for Florida and mainly the Gulf Coast Panhandle area. So you got this letter in the mail, and it says your insurance is being canceled. Why would your insurance be canceled when you haven't done anything? Well, there's a couple different reasons. One could be the age of the roof. It also could not just be the age of the roof. It could be the condition of the roof. So your insurance agent or insurance company actually has the right to send someone out to your house to examine your roof. They can send someone out, schedule an appointment, or just look from the road. I've even seen them do some drone photography and things like that, but they are sending people out. Sometimes they will schedule it with you, but they're going to look at things such as the roof, the granulars on the asphalt shingle roof. How are they? Is there too much wind shearing or displacement of those asphalt granulars on those shingles? So one reason they could cancel is because the roof's condition and the age of the roof. Another reason why they may be canceling is because the age of the hot water heater or the age of the AC. So insurance really likes these things under 15 years old. Sometimes they're a little lackadaisical on some of it, but the hot water heater, if it's in the garage, they'll let it go up to 20 years versus if it's inside the house, they want it under 15. If it's a tankless, they're not as strict on that. So there's a lot of different stipulations on it. These aren't hard and fast rules. And the insurance company is looking at your house in a total package, right? They're looking at what's called your 4-point and your wind mitigation report. And in Florida, when we get insurance, if your house is under 10 years old, you have to submit a wind mit and a 4-point to get quotes on insurance. And it's really like your resume to get insurance. Another reason why you could receive a cancellation letter could be because of solar panels. Maybe you've added solar panels to your house, and a lot of people don't know, but when you add solar panels, you have to let your insurance company know that. And there are only certain carriers who will actually insure your property with solar panels on it. So reasons why it could happen. We've talked about the roof. We've talked about the water heater, the solar panels, the age of the AC. Another reason could be because of electrical. So in the 70s and in some areas the 60s, but mainly in the 70s during the Vietnam War, we used a lot more aluminum wiring in our area for wiring houses. There was a copper shortage because of the copper being used with bullets during the Vietnam War. So they started using aluminum to wire houses. Well, here in Florida, they don't like to insure houses with aluminum wiring. So a lot of people years ago did what's called Alumicon connectors, which are where they go in and attach sort of a ground to each individual outlet to try and help make that safer, but they didn't rewire the whole house. Well, an insurance company may decide they're not going to cover that anymore, so they may send you a cancellation. Maybe you have a aluminum wire that is running to your dryer, just your dryer. That used to be okay. It is no longer accepted by insurance, so you may get a cancellation for that. There are also electrical panels that they just decide they don't like the brand, and so they're not going to insure those anymore. So these are all the different types of reasons that an insurance company could cancel your insurance. Now, many of these could have been a reason they wouldn't write a new policy, but maybe they're lagging behind on checking through all their old policies. So this could have went into effect 4 or 5 years ago, and you're just now receiving the cancellation. So it is something you're going to need to deal with. So before we talk about what you need to do, what I want to talk about is when do you need to let insurance know stuff so that you can prevent some of this, right? So sometimes people get these cancellation notices and they have a new roof. They just didn't know they needed to tell their insurance. So when and what do we need to tell our insurance to help prevent getting these notices? So anytime you get a new roof, you definitely need to let your insurance company know, and you need to give them a new 4-point or wind mitigation report or both, depending on how much upgrades you've done, so that you can sometimes lower your actual insurance cost or even shop around and find another insurance carrier. So anytime you get a new roof, you're going to need to let them know that. If you get new windows, you definitely want to let them know that. A new AC, a new water heater. If you did a major plumbing upgrade, let's say you're in one of the beautiful areas of East Hill here and your home is older with older plumbing, but you just had the entire house replumbed and upgraded with maybe PEX plumbing or something like that, you definitely want them to know that. If you changed out an electrical panel or did any electrical upgrades on the house, or if you added solar panels, you definitely want to let them know that. So how do you let your insurance company know that you've done upgrades? What you're going to want to do is get a new 4-point and wind mitigation report. And so remember, these two items are what you give insurance as your resume to get insurance. They really talk about the major components of your house, how old they are, what condition they're in, if they're working properly, and what they're made of, manufactured year, things like that. So you're going to want to get those updated and submit those to insurance anytime you do these updates. It could lower your insurance. For example, if you get a new roof and new windows, you could have totally upgraded to a more hurricane protected home. So if you replace over 25% of the openings in Florida, you do have to add hurricane protection, whether it's impact windows or the hurricane shutters. So you could have just added the hurricane shutters, which could reduce your insurance cost. So that would be great to let your insurance company know, and also help prevent these cancellation letters. I also recommend when you are doing these things, ask your insurance provider, mainly your agent. So I wouldn't call the main company, but normally you have an agent of someone who's actually writing that policy. Call them and have them run it a couple different ways of things that you could save money on. So for example, if you're putting a new roof on and your house was built older, your house is maybe 30 or 40 years old or more, and it doesn't have hurricane clips. This is a great time when you're putting on a roof to add those. So I would call my insurance company and go, hey, if I added hurricane clips to my house, how would that affect my insurance policy? Can you quote it both ways? Hey, if I added this new roof, when I do it, if I upgrade to peel and stick over the whole roof, can you quote my insurance based on that? And have them quote it both ways so that you can compare the cost and see if it makes sense. Things like peel and stick, I know we do on every roof anytime we replace a roof on one of the properties we own. And generally in about a year and a half, that upgraded cost, we've recouped it just in insurance savings. One thing to also talk to your insurance company about is sometimes when you replace those windows, you have upgraded your house's hurricane protection, but there may be like one door in the house, right? So if you're not getting that full credit, is there anything else I can do on the house to lower my insurance cost? Because sometimes it's literally put the hurricane studs and get plywood or hurricane shutters for this one particular door and you get the full credit. So you definitely don't want to be missing out on that discount you could get. So we talked about what to tell your insurance to help prevent getting these cancellations, but let's say you did get this cancellation. What are we going to do? If we do nothing, which is an option, right? So anytime something happens, you can do nothing or do something about it. If you do nothing, ultimately your insurance is going to be canceled. And if you have a mortgage, they are going to do forced place insurance. And what that means is your mortgage company is going to go find a very, very expensive insurance policy for you, put it in place, and force you to pay it. These policies are generally 2 to 3 times what a normal policy should be. And they are not going to protect the homeowner. So what do I mean by that? This policy is going to protect the lender in the event of a fire, right? So let's say a fire or hurricane comes through, it's going to protect that lender, not you. So it may pay that mortgage off, but do you have protection on your contents inside? No, you don't. They're really just forced insurance to protect the lender, not benefit you, but you're paying for it. And you're paying 2 to 3 times the amount you should be paying for it. So we don't want to do nothing. That is obviously not going to get us into a good situation. So ultimately what we have to do is we really have to figure out what it is they want us to fix, get quotes for it, and fix it. And I know sometimes this can be a shock. Actually, how this podcast came to be is because I got a call from a client yesterday who bought a house about 8 years ago and called me freaking out because they just received a letter that their insurance is going to get canceled. Now, these people are very financially savvy. They do very well normally, but they have been continuing their education. So this may not be a big situation in the future, but right now it's financially a major burden because she is finishing up a very hard doctoral program. And so financially, it's a little bit more of a strain than normal. This is not a great timing, right? So what are her options? Well, first thing is we just have to get a quote, right? Let's start with that. Let's get a quote. Let's figure out the expenses. And one of the things I told her, even though I know this is right now, you're freaking out the cost, go ahead and find out how much it would be and how it would affect your insurance if we added that peel and stick on the whole roof. Are there any other upgrades that we can do to reduce your insurance cost? Go ahead and ask your carrier that. Let's do that so that if we're going to have to borrow money, we can make all these upgrades at one time and make it most beneficial for them. So find out what it's going to cost and then how are we going to pay for it, right? So in this situation, this roof is going to run somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000. That's a lot of money to be told you have to come up with within 60 days. So how do you handle that? Well, if you've listened to me before, you know I'm not a huge fan of credit cards and high interest loans. I'm actually not a fan of debt at all. But sometimes we do have to borrow money to get us through a situation such as this. And so in this particular situation, she has owned the house, or the family has owned the house for 7 to 8 years. There's a ton of equity in the house. The value's probably almost doubled. So the first questions I asked her were, hey, have you refinanced or taken a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, out against your house? And she said, no, not at all. I still have my original mortgage. And I'm like, oh, that great interest rate you had. And she's like, yeah, do not touch that. So we're not going to refinance that because you got an incredible interest rate. But what about doing a HELOC or a home equity line of credit? Because she has so much value in the house or so much equity in the house, let's borrow against that to get her through this time and get the upgrades that she needs to be able to get insurance and maybe even get lower insurance. And that's why I wanted her to go ahead and talk to the insurance company and find out, was there anything else we could do to lower this insurance? Let's do it all at once. So when you're looking at these home equity lines of credit, what it is it's a line of credit against your house, almost like a credit card, except for it's backed by an asset, which is your house. And so instead of paying an interest on a credit card, which is 18 to 24% normally, sometimes higher, but it's normally pretty high interest, on a home equity line of credit, it is an adjustable rate, but it is normally a couple points higher than a current mortgage rate. So right now, I think they're running about 10%, but you only pay that on the amount you've borrowed and the balance. So she's got a ton of equity there. She may not want to take it out the full amount, but maybe she's going to get a $50,000 line of credit and she only needs $15,000. That is all she is going to borrow is the $15,000, and that's all she's going to make payments on and help her get through this situation. Her situation is going to change greatly in a couple months, and she'll have the money and be able to pay it off as soon as she graduates with this new degree. But this is going to help her get through this situation. Ultimately, I know it's a tough situation, but ultimately we have to do the work. You're going to have to do it to get insurance. You can shop around, and sometimes you may be able to find another carrier that will insure you, but it's going to be an exorbitant rate again. So you're going to want to find a plan and a way to get this maintenance done on your home that needs to be done to be able to lower your insurance costs. Otherwise, you're just kicking the can down the road, right? You're just going to be paying this higher insurance until someone else gives you a cancellation notice. So you definitely want to come up with a plan to get these items fixed. Okay, so we've got the cancellation notice. We now know why we're getting canceled, and we've got the quotes to move forward and get the repairs done. We've also asked our insurance agent, what can we do to reduce our cost additionally, and got the quotes for that. And then we talked about how we're going to pay for it if you don't have the money, do a HELOC, things like that. And then what do we do once we get the work done? So now we've got the work done. We're within our, let's say they gave you 60 days, you're within 30 days. What do you do next? So the next thing you need to do is get an updated 4-point and wind mitigation report. And if you need a good home inspector in the area, definitely message me and I will send you one that does it for a very reasonable cost. But you want to get that done for your insurance. Now, if it's just a roof and that's all you did, some roofers will actually provide that to you. Some will not. Some actually refer you out to a third party. But if it's anything else in the house besides the roof that you've improved, you may need to reach out to a home inspector and get that. So once you have that 4-point and wind mitigation updated, first thing you're going to do is save that somewhere. That is a very important documentation. If you ever go to get your insurance quoted again, you're going to need those documents. So when they come emailed, make sure you're downloading them, saving them to your Dropbox, a jump drive somewhere, but you need to be saving those documents for future use. They're only good for about a year, but I would keep them until you have another one done in case there's ever any questions on how old is the roof, how old are these things. You have it all documented, you know. So you've got your 4-point, you've got your wind mitigation report. You're going to send it to your current insurance person. And then you're also going to ask them to shop around for more affordable insurance. Maybe they can find you a different provider that's even less now that you've done these upgrades on the home. And then you're going to go ahead and make sure you have insurance in place before you are canceled and before that forced policy that is way too expensive we don't want to deal with comes up. I do want to share a story about something that recently happened. I had a client get a cancellation policy. This is the first time I've ever heard of this happening, but she got a cancellation policy because she moved out of the house. And I was a little shocked. Now, I do know that insurers do not like to insure a vacant home. And if the house has been sitting for a long period of time vacant, they do not like to insure that. It's more likely to have vandalism, things like that. But this particular case, her husband had just passed away and she moved in with her daughter and we immediately put the house up for sale. So it hasn't been vacant for more than 30 days when she received her cancellation notice. And that was very shocking to me. They reached out and talked to the insurance company and I got them in touch with another local insurance company and they were able to take care of it. But ultimately, what the insurance company said was because the house is vacant, even though it just went vacant, they were going to cancel her insurance policy. And how they knew it was vacant was because they mailed her something in the mail and she had done a change of address. And since that mail did not get forwarded and got returned, they knew she no longer lived there. She thought she was doing the right thing. She thought she was, doing a change of address. She just lost her husband. She moved in with her daughter, and this awful thing happens with this cancellation that just added way more stress than she needs to. And this apparently is something new insurance companies are doing because I've never heard of it. I've heard of it when a house is set for 6 or 8 months without someone living in it, but not less than 30 days. So this is something new to be on the lookout for. I'm not going to tell you what to do there, but just be aware of these situations and hopefully you won't receive a cancellation for this reason. If you receive a cancellation notice, though, I think ultimately what you need to do is reach out to your insurance agent. And I want to go over again what I mean by the agent. So you have a company that insures you. And on that invoice or on that proof of coverage or evidence of coverage, there is going to be at the top a place somewhere, normally at the top right or in the middle of the page, who wrote that policy. It's going to be probably a local company, or at least within the state of Florida. It's going to have a person's name and a phone number. I want you to reach out to that person. That is your agent. A lot of people don't understand that, but you have an agent that writes for multiple companies a lot of time, and they have written your insurance with this particular insurance company. Reach out to that person because they are your agent and they want to help you. They're your insurance agent. They want to help you keep coverage. They want to keep you as a client and keep insuring you. So reach out to them and ask them for help and ask them for guidance through this situation. Sometimes we do have to lead them along, though, as far as, okay, well, what else can I do? Okay, what else can I do to lower my cost? And probe them on those questions to make sure when you are doing the upgrades, you're doing the ones that are going to make sense and save you in the long run. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully none of you get a cancellation. And if you do, you know what to do now. If you don't, please DM me, reach out, and I'd love to guide you through it. Let's talk about our home hack. So each week we like to talk about a home hack. It is just something that helps make your life easier, more simple. It can be an app, a spreadsheet, just something cool that I'm enjoying in the home. This week, my home hack is going to be your home box. So what do I mean by a home box? Like at closing, we give every buyer a accordion style little box. It's simple and it's easy to put all your home's information in there. In the event of a hurricane or an emergency, you can grab that, run out the door, whatever you need to do. But it's a very small box that has all the paperwork and everything to do with your home, and it keeps it all nice and neat, organized. So in there, we'll have spots for your homeowner's insurance, your HOA, any upgrades you've done, any improvements to the house. And also at the top, we put a jump drive in there to keep those 4 points and wind mitigation reports on there. So make one for yourself and have that box for you on your home so that you can keep up with the information on your house. And this is really important right now in our area because they are not going to be keeping permits for roofs online anymore. The county has decided they're only going to keep them for so many years. And I think it's about 6 years. So if you have a roof 10 years from now and you need to prove that that was permitted, you need to have that documentation and paperwork. And this box that I'm talking about is going to help keep it in there. If you want a list of what all we keep in ours, just DM me and we'll shoot that over to you. Hope you enjoyed the home hack. Hope you enjoyed listening to the show today. If you need an agent, no matter where it is in the world, please reach out. Let us know. We'll connect you with someone good. I'm so happy you joined me. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you have a question that you want us to talk about on the show, please DM me, text me, email me. We'll talk about it. We may even invite you to be on the show or to call in to the show. But definitely send me a message. We'd love to help you. Remember, it's just my opinion. Adulting made simple.